The orange cat discovered a baby monkey trapped in the forest, and what happened next surprised everyone. The humid Florida air hung heavy, thick with the scent of pine, palmetto, and the faint, musky aroma of the nearby Everglades. Marmalade, a large, ginger tomcat with a coat the color of a setting sun and eyes like polished amber, moved through the undergrowth with the silent grace of a seasoned hunter. He was a creature of the borderlands, living on the edge of the sprawling Sunshine Sanctuary, a wildlife rehabilitation center and refuge for injured and displaced animals. Marmalade wasn't technically a resident of the sanctuary, but he was a frequent visitor, a tolerated trespasser. He had a semi-feral existence, spending his days exploring the surrounding woods and fields, hunting for his meals, and occasionally accepting handouts from the kind-hearted volunteers who worked at the center. He was independent, resourceful, and wary of humans, but he also possessed a surprising gentleness, a quiet compassion that belied his wild nature. He had been born in the woods, the offspring of a feral mother who had taught him the skills he needed to survive: how to hunt, how to hide, how to avoid danger. He had no memory of his siblings, no connection to any other cats. He was a loner by choice and by necessity, but he was not entirely without empathy. He had, on occasion, shared his kills with injured birds or left small gifts of dead mice near the cages of the recovering animals at the sanctuary, as if offering his support, his contribution to their well-being. It was an instinctive act, a gesture of kindness that seemed to contradict his solitary nature. The Sunshine Sanctuary was a sprawling complex of enclosures, aviaries, and rehabilitation facilities, surrounded by a high fence and dense vegetation. It was a haven for injured and orphaned animals, a place where they could recover, rehabilitate, and, if possible, be released back into the wild. Marmalade, with his feline agility and curiosity, often found his way inside the sanctuary grounds, slipping through gaps in the fence, scaling walls, and navigating the maze of pathways with an ease that both impressed and exasperated the staff. He knew to avoid the larger predators, the alligators in the pond, the recovering bobcats in their enclosures, the occasional rescued panther undergoing rehabilitation. But he was drawn to the smaller creatures, the birds, the squirrels, the rabbits, and the occasional glimpse of something more exotic. He knew instinctively that these animals were not to be hunted, that they were under the protection of the humans who worked at the sanctuary. He was simply a curious observer, a wild heart drawn to the whispers of the wild, even within the confines of a human-made sanctuary. This establishes Marmalade's character, and the crucial setting, the proximity to the wildlife sanctuary, makes the presence of a monkey, however unlikely, slightly more plausible. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows through the trees as Marmalade made his way along his usual hunting route, a narrow, overgrown path that bordered the edge of the sanctuary and wound its way into the deeper woods. He was alert, his senses heightened, his muscles coiled, ready to pounce on any unsuspecting prey. He paused, his ears twitching, his head cocked. He heard a sound, a faint, high-pitched cry, unlike anything he had heard before. It wasn't the chirp of a bird, the squeak of a mouse, or the chatter of a squirrel. It was something different, something that spoke of distress, of fear, of vulnerability. Marmalade, his curiosity piqued, his hunting instincts momentarily forgotten, followed the sound, his movements cautious and deliberate. He crept through the undergrowth, his orange fur blending with the dappled sunlight, his amber eyes scanning the forest floor. The cry came again, louder this time, closer. It was a plaintive, whimpering sound, filled with a desperate need that resonated with something deep within Marmalade's feline heart. He pushed his way through a thicket of palmetto bushes and emerged into a small clearing. And there, huddled at the base of a large oak tree, was the source of the cry. It was a baby monkey, a tiny creature, no bigger than Marmalade's head, with soft brown fur, large, frightened eyes, and a thin, almost hairless tail. It was clinging to a low-hanging branch, its small body trembling, its cries growing weaker with each passing moment. Marmalade had seen monkeys before, at the sanctuary, in their enclosures. But he had never seen one this small, this vulnerable, this alone. It was clearly out of place, lost, abandoned, or perhaps escaped. He approached cautiously, his hunter's instincts tempered by a growing sense of concern. He circled the monkey slowly, sniffing the air, assessing the situation. The monkey, initially startled by Marmalade's presence, seemed to sense his lack of aggression. It stopped crying, momentarily, and looked at Marmalade, its large brown eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. Marmalade, in that moment, made a decision. He wouldn't hunt this creature. He wouldn't abandon it. He would help it. He didn't know how he would help it, but he knew he had to do something. He couldn't just leave it there, alone and frightened, to the mercy of the forest and its predators. This is the crucial moment where Marmalade's compassionate nature overrides his predatory instincts, setting the stage for the rest of the story. Marmalade, his decision made, began his attempts to help the baby monkey. His actions were guided by instinct, by a feline understanding of vulnerability and need, but they were also limited by his physical capabilities and his lack of understanding of the monkey's specific requirements. He started by staying close, sitting near the base of the tree, offering a silent, reassuring presence. He knew, from his own experiences as a stray, that fear and loneliness could be as debilitating as hunger or injury. The baby monkey, initially wary, seemed to calm down slightly, its whimpers subsiding, its large eyes fixed on Marmalade's amber gaze. It clung to the branch, its small hands gripping the rough bark, its body still trembling. Marmalade then tried to offer the monkey food. He had caught a small mouse earlier in the day, and he had been saving it for his evening meal. He retrieved the mouse from his hiding place, a hollow log near the edge of the clearing, and placed it at the base of the tree, nudging it towards the monkey with his nose. The monkey, however, ignored the offering. It didn't seem to recognize the mouse as food, or perhaps it was simply too frightened, too distressed, to eat. Marmalade, realizing that his usual offering was not appropriate, tried a different approach. He remembered seeing the monkeys at the sanctuary eating fruit, bananas, and other soft foods. He scanned the clearing, searching for anything that might be suitable. He found a few wild berries, growing on a nearby bush. He carefully picked them one by one and placed them near the monkey, hoping that the sweet scent might entice it to eat. The monkey again showed little interest. It sniffed at the berries cautiously, then turned away, its eyes filled with a sadness that tugged at Marmalade's feline heart. Marmalade realized that he was out of his depth. He couldn't provide the monkey with the kind of food it needed, the kind of care it required. He also realized that the monkey was becoming weaker, its movements more sluggish, its cries fainter. He knew that he had to do something more, something drastic. He had to find someone who could help, someone who understood monkeys, someone who could provide the care this small, vulnerable creature desperately needed. He had to seek out human intervention, despite his inherent wariness of humans. He had to overcome his fear, his independence, and rely on the very creatures he had always avoided. This section highlights the limitations of Marmalade's abilities, emphasizing the realistic ways a cat might try to help, and setting up the need for human intervention. Marmalade, his decision made, left the clearing and the baby monkey, and started to run, heading towards the place where he had often seen humans, the place where he sometimes received scraps of food and a fleeting moment of kindness, the home of Eleanor Thompson. He remembered the woman, her gentle voice, her kind eyes, the way she had always respected his space, never trying to force an interaction, always offering food without expectation of anything in return. He had sensed a goodness in her, a compassion that had made him feel, if not safe, at least not threatened. He ran through the woods, his orange fur a blur against the green foliage, his paws silent on the soft earth. He reached the edge of Eleanor's property, hesitating for a moment, his instincts warning him to stay away, to remain hidden. But the image of the baby monkey, clinging to the branch, its eyes filled with fear and desperation, spurred him on. He had to try. He approached Eleanor's house cautiously, his body low to the ground, his tail twitching nervously. He saw her, sitting on her porch swing, reading a book, her face calm and serene. He let out a loud meow, a desperate cry for help, a sound that was both a plea and a demand. He meowed again and again, his voice echoing through the quiet afternoon air. Eleanor looked up, startled by the commotion. She saw Marmalade, standing on her lawn, meowing frantically, his eyes fixed on her, his body tense with anxiety. She recognized him as the orange cat who had occasionally visited her yard, the one who had seemed so aloof and independent. She wondered what had brought him here, what had caused this sudden change in his behavior. "Rusty?" she said, her voice questioning. "What's wrong? What is it, boy?" Marmalade meowed again, then turned and ran a short distance towards the woods, looking back at her, as if urging her to follow. He repeated this several times, his message clear. "Come with me. Something is wrong." Eleanor, her heart pounding with a sudden premonition, understood. The cat was trying to tell her something, to lead her somewhere. He needed her help. She grabbed her cane, her coat, and her keys and followed him, her pace quickening as she realized the urgency of his message. She trusted his instincts, his desperate plea, his unwavering determination. She knew, somehow, that this was important, that this was more than just a cat seeking attention. This was a call for help, a cry for compassion, and she was determined to answer it. This is the crucial moment where Marmalade actively seeks human help, demonstrating his intelligence and his understanding of the situation. Marmalade led Eleanor through the woods, following the narrow, overgrown path that he had taken earlier. He moved quickly, purposefully, occasionally looking back to make sure she was following, his meows growing more urgent as they neared the clearing. Eleanor, despite her age and her reliance on her cane, kept up as best she could, her heart pounding with a mixture of exertion and apprehension. She didn't know what she would find, what danger awaited them, but she trusted Marmalade, implicitly, to lead her to the right place. They reached the clearing and Marmalade darted towards the large oak tree, letting out a series of short, sharp meows, his eyes fixed on the spot where the baby monkey was clinging to the branch. Eleanor followed, her breath catching in her throat as she saw the small, brown form huddled against the tree trunk. It was a monkey, a very young monkey, clearly out of place, lost and frightened. "Oh my goodness!" she exclaimed, her voice filled with shock and compassion. "A baby monkey! What's it doing here?" She immediately understood Marmalade's actions, his desperate plea for help, his unwavering determination to save this tiny creature. She felt a surge of admiration for the cat, for his bravery, his empathy, his extraordinary act of interspecies kindness. She approached the monkey cautiously, speaking to it softly, reassuringly. The monkey, initially frightened by her presence, seemed to sense her kindness. It let go of the branch, its small body trembling, and reached out to Eleanor, its tiny hands grasping her fingers. Eleanor carefully lifted the monkey from the tree, cradling it in her arms, feeling its soft fur, its rapid heartbeat, its vulnerability. She knew she had to get it to safety, to get it to someone who could care for it, who could understand its needs. She contacted the Sunshine Sanctuary, the wildlife rehabilitation center that bordered the woods. She explained the situation, describing the baby monkey, its condition, and Marmalade's role in finding it. The sanctuary staff, initially skeptical, were amazed by Eleanor's story. They immediately dispatched a team of experts to the clearing, equipped with the necessary tools and expertise to handle a rescued primate. The team, led by a veterinarian named Dr. Ramirez, using a familiar name, but a different character and profession, arrived quickly, their movements swift and efficient. They assessed the monkey, confirming that it was a young Capuchin monkey, likely only a few weeks old. It was dehydrated, malnourished, and suffering from a minor injury to its leg, but otherwise, it seemed to be in relatively good condition. Dr. Ramirez explained that Capuchin monkeys were not native to Florida or anywhere in the United States. She suspected that the monkey had either escaped from an illegal private owner or, more likely, been abandoned by someone involved in the exotic pet trade. "It's a sad reality, Mrs. Thompson, Dr. Ramirez said, her voice filled with concern. People acquire these animals as pets, not realizing the complexities of their care, the dangers they pose, and the ethical implications of keeping wild animals in captivity. Then, when the animals become too difficult to handle, or when they get sick or injured, they're often abandoned, left to fend for themselves. She praised Marmalade for his actions, calling him a true hero, a testament to the extraordinary capacity of animals for compassion and interspecies connection. The sanctuary team carefully transported the baby monkey to the center, where it would receive the medical care, nourishment, and nurturing it needed to recover and, hopefully, thrive. Eleanor, watching the monkey being taken away, felt a mixture of relief, gratitude, and a growing sense of wonder at the events that had unfolded, all thanks to the actions of a stray orange cat. The rescue was complete, but the mystery remained. How did the monkey end up in the woods? This sets up the investigation and the eventual surprise. The rescue of the baby monkey, now named Miko by the sanctuary staff, marked the beginning of a significant change in Eleanor's life. She became a regular visitor to the Sunshine Sanctuary, spending hours each week watching Miko, helping with his care, and learning about primates and the challenges of wildlife rehabilitation. She also, of course, continued to care for Marmalade, who had become a permanent fixture in her life. He no longer just visited. He lived with her, sharing her home, her meals, and her quiet evenings by the fire. He had earned his place, not just as a companion, but as a hero, a rescuer, a testament to the extraordinary capacity of animals for love and compassion. Miko, under the expert care of the sanctuary staff, thrived. He gained weight, his injury healed, and his playful, curious nature began to emerge. He was a mischievous, intelligent creature, full of energy and a zest for life. But what surprised everyone, what truly touched everyone's hearts, was the bond that developed between Miko and Marmalade. The sanctuary staff, initially hesitant to allow a cat near a primate, were amazed by Marmalade's gentle demeanor and Miko's apparent comfort in his presence. They cautiously allowed supervised interactions, and what they witnessed was extraordinary. Marmalade, the independent, semi-feral cat, seemed to adopt Miko as his own. He'd groom him, meticulously licking his fur, cleaning him from head to toe. He'd curl up beside him, offering warmth and comfort, his soft purr a soothing lullaby. He'd even, on occasion, bring Miko gifts, small toys or objects he found around the sanctuary, offering them to the monkey with a gentle nudge of his nose. Miko, in turn, adored Marmalade. He'd cling to him, wrapping his tiny arms around the cat's neck, chattering and squeaking with delight. He'd mimic Marmalade's movements, following him around the enclosure, learning from his example. He'd even try to groom Marmalade, clumsily patting the cat's fur with his small hands, a gesture of affection that Marmalade seemed to tolerate with surprising patience. Their unlikely friendship became a sensation at the sanctuary, attracting visitors, volunteers, and even media attention. People were captivated by the image of the orange cat and the baby monkey, cuddling together, playing together, sharing a bond that transcended species, a connection that defied all expectations. Meanwhile, the investigation into Miko's origins continued. The sanctuary staff, working with local law enforcement, were determined to find out how a baby Capuchin monkey had ended up abandoned in the Florida woods. They traced Miko's likely origins to a small, unlicensed exotic animal breeder, operating on the fringes of legality, several hours south of Havenwood. The breeder, facing mounting pressure from the authorities and fearing prosecution, had apparently panicked and abandoned Miko, hoping he would be found and cared for. The breeder was eventually apprehended and charged with animal cruelty and illegal possession of an exotic animal. His operation was shut down, and the remaining animals were rescued and placed in reputable sanctuaries. But the surprise element of the story, the element that would truly elevate it from a simple rescue to a tale of profound connection and unexpected consequences, came from an unexpected source: a DNA test. Dr. Ramirez, fascinated by the bond between Marmalade and Miko and curious about Miko's origins, had decided to run a DNA test on the monkey hoping to learn more about his genetic background, his potential health issues, and perhaps even trace his lineage. The results of the test were shocking. Miko was not just any Capuchin monkey. He was a critically endangered species, a rare subspecies of capuchin found only in a small, remote region of the Amazon rainforest. This discovery had significant implications. It meant that Miko was incredibly valuable, not just in monetary terms, but in terms of conservation, in terms of preserving a species on the brink of extinction. It also meant that his rescue, orchestrated by Marmalade, had taken on a whole new level of importance. It wasn't just about saving one small, helpless creature. It was about potentially saving an entire species. The unlikely bond between a stray cat and an abandoned monkey had, quite literally, changed the world, in a small but significant way. This is the surprise. Miko's rare species, making Marmalade's actions even more impactful. The revelation of Miko's rare species status transformed the Sunshine Sanctuary into a focal point for conservation efforts. Scientists, researchers, and conservationists from around the world flocked to the sanctuary, eager to study Miko, to learn from him, and to develop strategies for protecting his species in the wild. The sanctuary received a surge of funding, donations, and volunteer support, allowing them to expand their facilities, improve their programs, and enhance their conservation efforts. They established a dedicated Capuchin monkey enclosure designed to mimic Miko's natural habitat, and they began working with international organizations to develop a breeding program, hoping to increase the population of this critically endangered species. Marmalade, of course, became a celebrity, a symbol of hope, a testament to the extraordinary capacity of animals for compassion and interspecies connection. He was featured in newspapers, magazines, and television programs, his story inspiring millions of people around the world. But Marmalade, despite the fame and attention, remained his humble, unassuming self. He continued to visit Miko regularly, their bond seemingly unbreakable. He'd spend hours in the Capuchin enclosure, grooming Miko, playing with him, and offering him the silent, unwavering support that had characterized their relationship from the beginning. Eleanor, too, became an integral part of the sanctuary's community. She volunteered her time, helping with administrative tasks, assisting with fundraising efforts, and sharing her story with visitors, emphasizing the importance of animal welfare, the power of compassion, and the unexpected ways in which animals can enrich our lives. She found a new sense of purpose, a new connection to the world, a new reason to get out of bed in the morning. She had gone from a solitary widow, living a quiet life of routine, to an active member of a vibrant community, dedicated to protecting endangered species and celebrating the extraordinary bond between humans and animals. The story of Marmalade and Miko, the orange cat who had rescued a baby monkey and inadvertently saved a species, became a legend, a testament to the power of interspecies friendship, the enduring strength of compassion, and the unexpected ways in which our lives can be transformed by the animals we encounter. It was a story that reminded everyone that even in the most ordinary of lives, extraordinary things can happen, that even the smallest of creatures can make a profound difference in the world, and that the greatest gifts often come in the most unexpected packages, sometimes wrapped in orange fur, sometimes in brown, but always filled with love. The sanctuary and symbiosis in the title refer not only to the wildlife sanctuary, but also to the symbiotic relationship between Marmalade and Miko, and the sanctuary that Eleanor found in her newfound purpose and community. The story concludes with a sense of hope, fulfillment, and the enduring power of connection, both human and animal.